Now, travel chaos, whether it's off to Ibiza or somewhere else, rumbles on, with Heathrow cancelling over 60 flights just this morning. And there's more cancellations expected over the summer, just as hopeful families and individuals are planning to get away. Staff shortages are being blamed, with airlines confessing to booking too many passengers on flights when they simply don't have the capacity. And now we have more looming bad news. Staff at Heathrow who work for Ryanair, EasyJet and British Airways have voted to strike in the coming months. It can be hard to keep up with what's going on at airports, and if you find yourself in the midst of this bedlam, it's very important to know what you're entitled to do. What do you do if your flight suddenly gets cancelled? Can you get your money back, and more besides? Well, I'm delighted to be joined now by Paul Britton, legal expert and founder of law firm Britton and Time. First of all, I asked you to comment on that bit in the middle there. It's rough and rotten right now, and all journalists are saying it's going to get rougher and more rotten.
It's been pretty bad over the last year since we've come out of the pandemic and the lockdowns. I think the schedules have been pulled roughly around 40,000 flights already to date, with British Airways announcing another 40 flights pulled this morning. Although it wasn't British Airways, it was Heathrow that's pulled those flights from the schedule. But it is a knock-on effect to British Airways, who then has to inform their customers and deal with the fallout there.
And you're very much wearing a legal hat on these matters, as well as somebody who's interested and well-informed on the subject. In the middle of that lead-in, there was a thing that I read when I came in this morning and thought, wow, blimey. They consciously knew that they didn't have the staff or they didn't have the slots from the airport, and yet they still took bookings. Does that greatly increase the legal rights of the consumer?
It doesn't, Alastair, no.
Oh, should it?
It's unforgivable. Airlines have always overbooked flights, and when it works well, it works well for them. But it's how they deal with it when too many passengers turn up. The situation we've got now isn't so much that too many passengers are turning up, it's the fact that they haven't got enough staff to either check them in, deal with the baggage at the airport, fuel the planes, deal with flight operations, or indeed operate the flight itself.
So it is complicated, and thanks for that clarification. But let's then cut to the chase. Whether you're taking a business trip to Brussels or whether you're going to Ibiza to listen to some popular music, what are your rights if you suddenly get cancelled at the last moment?
At the last minute, you'll be entitled to compensation if you can't take that flight and it is cancelled. The airline does have an obligation to get you where you want to go. So that might mean if you booked with British Airways, you end up on a Virgin Atlantic flight, or what should I say, a Virgin flight, EasyJet, Ryanair, or something like that.
You stressed at the last minute, so is it different if they give you a couple of weeks' notice that your flight's not going to happen?
That you've got a 2-week, if it's less than 2 weeks' notice, so up till that point, you will get, or you'll be entitled to, should I say, compensation for the delay or cancelled flights. If it's more than that, well, then we'll have to look at the terms and conditions and see what rights you have.
And are those common terms and conditions, or do they vary slightly? And let's cut to the chase. They won't mind me calling them cheap and cheerful airlines like EasyJet, Ryanair and what have you. They want to keep the costs down as much as possible so that we can all go more frequently. Or you take a deep breath and you book executive, business class, or even first class with someone like BA or whomsoever. Do those rights vary?
It tends to be a standard set of terms and conditions that you get when you're booking your flight. What does vary from airline to airline is how flexible they're going to be with you outside of those terms and conditions. Quite often, if your flight is delayed or cancelled at the last minute, as you said, they will say, well, look, we've got another flight tonight at 9 o'clock, we'll put you on that. The difficulty comes when they haven't got another flight to put you on.
Let's see if we've only got about a minute left, but I confess to you that I would do it, personalising it, as it were. I've got a trip coming up to Europe to see the Rolling Stones, and I took a deep breath and I paid business class because that's what I wanted to do and make sure it all happened. Then I read in the newspapers about 10,000 BA flights being cancelled, and lo and behold, 48 hours later, I got an email saying that flight has been cancelled, but click on this link, you can rebook, and it all happened very comfortably within 5-10 minutes.
So, remember, as the passenger, it's you that's entitled to the compensation.
Not as a business class passenger.
Not as a business class passenger. If GB News, for example, sent you somewhere and they paid for it and booked it, because you're the passenger, you're entitled to the compensation, not GB News. Because you paid more, you're still bound by the same compensation rules and what your entitlement will be. That can be anything from £200 to £500.
Fascinating. Last question, and again, all sorts of people are kind enough to watch and listen to our conversations here. Whether you be mum, dad and 5 kids going to the south of Spain for a holiday, or one person going to Europe to see a rock band, do you need to go to a lawyer? Do you go straight back to the airline? Do you go to the travel agent? What's your first port of call if you've been done over?
We would always say, make your complaint to the airline, go through their complaints procedure. In the terms, you might have an alternative dispute resolution service. That's port number 2. Number 3 would be the Civil Aviation Authority. And if all is lost, then solicitors.
Brilliant. We'll put that stuff up on a tweet and make sure that they all know. Paul, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Paul Britton, their legal expert from Britton and Time. I've enjoyed today. I shall be back again tomorrow until such time as they find Liam Halligan. But I wish him well if he's having a quick break. That's all we have time for today. Now, it's the news.